Touchdown, Pittsburgh!
Touchdown, Washington!
What's going on, ladies and gentlemen? Welcome to a brand new episode of the Steelskin Show, a show hosted by one diehard Pittsburgh Steelers fan and one diehard Washington Redskins fan. From game recaps, game previews, news headlines, analysis, opinions, and all kinds of other stuff, we have got you covered on all things Pittsburgh Steelers and Washington Redskins. My name is Patrick, and I'm the voice of the Pittsburgh Steelers here on the Steelskin Show.
And I'm Chris, voice of the Washington Redskins.
Chris, how are you, man?
Good.
It's good to see you tonight. It's good to be back. It's been a couple weeks since we've done the Steelskin Show. Good to be back here in the studio. How you feeling tonight?
Good. How about you?
I'm in a good mood tonight. I'm glad to be here. I'm ready to do this podcast. I'm in just kind of one of those really relaxed moods tonight. And those don't happen very often for me. I mean, I'm not like a chapped individual. I'm in a good mood tonight, you know?
Well, I'm really happy to hear that. That makes me happy.
It puts you in a good mood now?
Yes.
Okay. All right.
Yes.
All right. Well, we are kind of in that dead period right now as it applies to football. OTAs are going on. I don't really see much in the way of overanalyzing OTAs. I don't watch OTAs and I'm like, man, did you see that one drill that guy did?
I mean,
you see the one where he hopped over the tire? Whoa, did you see how high he got over that tire?
Yeah.
It's just one of those slow periods. But we do have some news tonight concerning the Pittsburgh Steelers and the Redskins. We do have a couple items.
All right, well, so Patrick, couple of newsworthy items this week.
Aye.
Talk about Ladarius Green.
Yes, the season finale of Game of Ladarius came a little prematurely. Talking about, actually, it was 1 week ago today, the Pittsburgh Steelers released tied in Ladarius Green after signing him to a 4-year, $20 million contract. Remember, we signed him. He was supposed to be the future at tight end, the ultimate replacement to Heath Miller, the vertical threat that he could never be. And obviously, we all know about the rigmarole last season. Couldn't get on the field because it was allegedly headaches because he had concussion history. No, it was actually the ankle injury. He only played in 6 games. In 6 games, he had 18 catches for 304 yards and 1 touchdown. Later, towards the end of the season last year, George Iloka hits him in the head. That was like week 13. And he didn't even see the rest of, he didn't get back on the field after that at all. So, obviously, this guy had a bunch of issues, and it was interesting because we released him under the designation of a failed physical. So, there's a lot to talk about with this tonight. I guess the first thing we'll start with is my reaction to it. Chris, obviously it was shocking. It was the big NFL news of the day, last Thursday.
Which is really lets you know further that it's a dead time.
Yeah.
Because
if Ladarius Green...
certainly was not a household name.
No, the NFL's Instagram even posted about it. So,
right.
we're fighting and scrapping, which, to be fair, the Steelers are a team who don't really do free agency, so the fact that they had this big signing that they released, it was big news. But, it was shocking news, but I guess I read it, I called you, and then I just kind of laughed. I just kind of laughed about it, I've been a fan of this team since I was 3 and 4 years old, and I got to tell you, man, this is easily one of the most, just one of the weirdest situations I've ever seen.
Yeah, it was, and pulling for the Redskins, we know weird situations, and this definitely made the list.
Yeah.
Because it was almost like the dude didn't want to play.
I don't know.
The funny part of you says, I don't even think Ladarius wanted to play.
Yeah, we'll get into that a little bit later. And the first thing I want to start with is, I don't think I would not call Ladarius Green a bust. A lot of people would say, well, why wouldn't you call him a bust? Because when he was on the field, he was everything we wanted him to be. Let's be honest about that. When he did play, he was the vertical route runner. He attacked the seam well. He was our Gronkowski. Didn't get him on the field long, but he did produce when he was on the field. So I don't know if I call him a bust per se. I just think it's one of these situations, man, where you're a team and you make a move and it just doesn't work out. Having said that, though, there are a couple of names we do want to grill tonight. And we're going to have to put the tinfoil hats on because this is just by far a weird situation. But the first thing I want to start with, I guess, is the salary cap implications of this. And we're going to try to get through this as best we can because unless you're a football expert or a football nerd, the salary cap can be one of those things that just really goes over people's heads. So we'll try to break this down as best we can for those of you out there who may not understand these things. So, Ladarius Green, remember back in 2016, he signs a 4-year, $20 million contract. In 2017, which was this year, he was scheduled to earn $5 million. That was his base salary. So by releasing Ladarius Green, the Steelers are going to free up some cap space, but there is going to be some dead money attached to it that they're going to have to eat. The question is, how are the Steelers going to designate this? When you release somebody this time of year, you can designate it as a post-June 1st release, or you can choose not to do that. If the Steelers release... So the Steelers have already made their decision, but what I want to do now is break down both sides so that way you guys kind of understand it. So let's just say the Steelers chose to designate this as a post-June 1st release. Here's what would have happened. They would have immediately created $5 million in cap space right there off the bat. But in theory, they really wouldn't have been doing that, though, because in 2018, they would have had a dead money charge of $2.375 million. So if you do it as a post-June 1st release, you're thinking in the short term more than the long term. You want that cap space now, but you're going to eat some money on the back end. So let's just say that the Steelers choose to not do that as a post-June 1st release. Here's what they do. They have to eat $3,562,000 right up front. They've got to eat that right now. But they do free up $2.625 million in salary cap space. So the thinking there is, okay, we'll go ahead and eat the money up front. That way we don't have to deal with it in 2018. That way we can just...
So it's not a post-June 1st.
So that's what we get to next. So I hope that made some sense to you guys because, again, I know these things can really go over some people's heads. So here's what the Steelers chose to do. We did not designate this as a post-June 1st release. So... like I just said, the Steelers will eat more money right now. We're going to have to take a harder hit right now, but in the long run, we're not going to have to worry about anything in 2018. There's no cap charge in 2018. A lot of people were very upset that the Steelers did not designate this as a post-June 1 release. Personally, I agree with the Steelers' decision. What about you? To just go ahead and not designate it as a post-June 1.
I mean, I think anytime if you can go ahead and get it out of the way, it's a good thing.
And that's my thought process towards this.
I mean, the whole June 1st thing, has been part of the salary cap since it was instituted.
Right.
Now, you've got more wiggle room because you can release players. Before, June 1st was a fun day.
Mm-hmm.
Because
yeah.
you had the June 1st cuts come through.
Right.
And you were hoping, okay, this is your last chance. If you had a hole that you hadn't been able to fill, this was a shot for you to grab a guy. But in the last few years, they've allowed teams to release guys there's a window now before June 1 where they can release it and just designate it.
That's right.
And that gives the players a lot more time to get a favorable situation they like instead of being pinched between training camp and June 1.
Right. That's exactly right.
But it's something that's been part of the salary cap and part of how teams manage it. But I think anytime you can put the charge there and not have to deal with it on the backside, I think it's a really good idea.
Well, yeah, because it's beyond. I mean, look, I understand why some people were frustrated because people are saying there's $5 million right there. Why wouldn't you take that? But again, do you want to get to 2018? You're looking at your salary cap. Oh, we have to pay a player who doesn't even play for us anymore.
Right.
You know what I mean? That's just an annoyance. So, we're going to go ahead and eat about a little over $3 million right up front, but on the back end, we're going to save some money. We're not going to have to worry about Green. So that takes care of that. Now let's get into, Chris, the discussion of, I guess this is where we put the tinfoil hats on, because again, I've been a fan of this team ever since I was a little kid, and this is beyond one of the weirdest situations I've ever seen. So I guess the discussion we need to have now is, what did the Steelers know and when did they know it? And again, some of this we know, and there's a lot we don't know, so we're just going to be theorizing as best we can. So let's start with the let's start with the actual signing of Ladarius Green back in 2016. So here's what we do know. And Kevin Colbert, Art Rooney, Mike Tomlin, I don't think any heads need to roll because I do think the Steelers have a stable front office. I think Mike Tomlin's a good coach. Here's what I will say. This can't happen again. This cannot happen again, and here's why. According to Ed Bouchette, who, if you follow the Steelers closely, you know that name. He's written for the Steelers for years. He reported last week that, guess what, Chris? The Steelers did not fully investigate his concussion history when they signed him from San Diego. The Chargers had it. They had the medical history. Everything was there, but they did not fully research it.
Now, what does he source from that? What is he sourcing?
Well, he has his own sources. And apparently San Diego themselves. San Diego themselves came out and said, yeah, we knew about this. We had the injury reports. We had the medicals on this guy. So the Steelers the Steelers knew that he had some concussion history, and they knew that he had one that season with San Diego, but they did not care to research fully just how bad these symptoms were. So one thing we do know is that the Steelers did not fully do their homework. And I want to reiterate what I just said. I do not think Kevin Colbert needs to be fired. I don't think Art Rooney Jr. needs to be fired. And I don't think Tomlin needs to be fired. But I'm going to tell you what, man. This can't happen again. As a front office, that you got to give that an F. You're supposed to research and know these things before you sign a player.
Yeah, I mean, you would definitely hope that's the case.
Especially if you're going to sign him to a 4-year, $20 million contract. Come on now.
Yeah, that's kind of startling.
It's very startling.
That's startling. I think that at least, the one thing you can say is this certainly was not a mega contract. And it's not a contract. They got fortunate, and again, Pittsburgh does so little in free agency.
But see, isn't that
that this probably actually seems bigger than it actually is, but because they just don't go after guys,
right?
So when they do finally dip their toe in and they get bit,
they end up getting screwed.
It is kind of interesting, but I'm just really kind of floored.
Yeah,
that this article says they did not do their homework.
No, they didn't. And again, the Chargers had it. They had the info. They had the medicals. They had everything on this guy. The Steelers just didn't fully look into it. And I know I keep repeating myself. I don't think Colbert needs to lose his job over this, but I'm willing to let bygones be bygones. Learn from this, move on. But this better not happen again. Because I'm telling you what, man, something like this happens again, that's grounds for being fired. That's grounds for losing your job right there as a GM. Now, here is the next discussion we have about this, Chris. And I'm curious to get your opinion. And by the way, this is where you put the tinfoil hats on because we'll never truly know. So, do you think, Chris, that the Green was cut under the designation of a failed physical?
Okay.
Do you think that the Steelers... Do you think that this was a shock, that this failed physical just happened all of a sudden? Or do you think they knew pre-draft that they were going to release him? Now, again, we're totally theorizing because nobody knows. But what do you think? What does your gut tell you? Do you think the Steelers knew about this? Or was this just a shock? Oh, my gosh, he failed his physical.
I don't think it was a shock.
I don't either.
And
I agree with that.
I think that... I've got no basis for this, but I would say if you're willing to take a $5 million bath, whether he passed the physical or not would only be part of the puzzle.
Yeah.
I just wonder if they just decided, look, we're just going to get out of this. We're going to move on.
We're tired of the runaround. We're tired of this guy not being on the field. Yeah, I agree with that. But here's what I'm trying to get at, Chris. I agree with you. And once again, I have no basis. It's just my gut. I agree that the Steelers knew they were going to release him. I agree that this failed physical was not a shock.
Right.
So here's what I'm getting at, Chris. Why not draft a tight end then?
Because the Steelers in this draft, I felt like, as much as anybody throughout the entire process, went best player available. Nobody in this... again, and you and I batted this around. You can pick for need, or you can go best player available.
Sure.
I feel like the Steelers, almost top to bottom, went BPA.
Yeah.
And if you go by that, then you do not try to manufacture a position.
Right.
So my initial thought is this. There just wasn't anybody there that was on the board when they would pick in these rounds that they liked better than the guys they picked.
Well, see, here's where I'd have to disagree with that, though. Jordan Leggett was available. George Kittle was available.
Board,
Jake Butt was available.
But on their board, you're not talking about what we think.
Sure.
We're talking about on Kevin
Colbert's
big
board.
Yeah. When you get to that round, as the draft unfolds, you're constantly saying, okay, this guy's off. Here's our next guy up. Here's the next guy up. And if you go by your board, if that next guy up, whether you need a tight end or not, if you're going to stick to your board, you pick the guy that's there on your board.
I mean, yeah, I guess you're right.
So you do not... You don't try to manufacture something that you and your scouts, through numerous hours of meetings, have decided these are the guys we like. This is how we want the draft to go. Here are the contingencies. We're sticking by best player available.
Right.
Here we go.
Right.
If you do that, then I mean, it's a big question.
Yeah,
it's a big question.
Well, okay. Well, I guess I'll ask you this then. I guess you're playing Steelers fan. Do you think that I guess the Steelers looked at, because obviously with the loss of Green, you've got to compensate. Do you think the Steelers look at their receiving core right now and they say, we got Martavis back, we got 6'4" Martavis back, oh, and we just got this rookie Juju Smith-Schuster? Do you think they looked at that and said that compensates for the loss of Green?
It could. You and I were talking on the phone. The Steelers' offense runs through its wide receivers,
and that's a very good point. That is a very good point.
Even the last couple of years of the Heath Miller era, he had become less. Now, he had not become less impactful.
No, but I know what you're saying.
He was not the 65 catch guy anymore. Now, some of that's age, but I also think some of that is the direction the offense began to go.
That's a good point.
So I think maybe from a value standpoint, they may have said we can survive with what we've got. Right.
Well, let me ask you this because you're obviously a lot more knowledgeable about scheme and playbook than I am because you've been watching football a lot longer. I think a lot of people overreacted. And I want to be clear that this is a loss. Losing Green is big in a lot of ways because, again, when he was on the field, man, was he impactful. But here's, from a scheme perspective, now your offense is going to run through AB, Juju Smith-Schuster, Martavis Bryant. You factor in Eli Rogers in there. You factor in some of these other guys.
And you also factor in Le'Veon Bell.
You factor in Le'Veon Bell.
What he can do.
Jesse James is becoming a lot bigger as well. With the Steelers coming into this season moving even more towards the wide receiver position in terms of how their offense is going to run, don't you think this gives them a tremendous advantage to spread the field out even more? I mean, now that you've got Brown, Bryant, Schuster, Rogers, and some of these other guys, don't you think now they can do a lot more with just spreading defenses all over the field and maybe opening up stuff underneath a lot more?
Yeah. I mean, you would certainly think that.
Yeah. Because that was my first thought. Yes, that this is a loss. In fact, John Ledyard, I actually was in a Twitter conversation with him. He disagreed with me, but I look at it from, man, now you've just got nothing but raw speed. You can spread defenses all over the place.
Well, how many times did we say over the past year, Big Ben, I mean, he loves to take the shots down the field.
Yeah. But what I'm saying is, obviously, Ben's going to take his downfield shots, but now with Brown, Bryant, Smith, Schuster, Rogers, these other guys, the underneath opportunities that open up because of this. Because now, if you're a defense, holy cow, you're in overwhelm mode. I got to cover Brown. We got to cover Bryant. There's the guy in the slot. I just feel like now if you're a defense, when you're playing the Steelers, what do you do? I feel like this scares defenses in a lot of ways.
Well, you can certainly stabilize their formations if you decide you want to spread them out. In other words, you can... The first thing I think is you want to keep them in nickel.
Exactly.
Because then the numbers become very favorable in the run game.
That's exactly right.
Because generally in a nickel situation, you're looking at 3- and 4-man rushes.
Right.
and especially on early downs, that can definitely favor a run game. And you're also stressing the defense because you can pick on a weak, if their slot corner is the weak target, if that's the guy you want to go after, you can go after that.
Yeah.
But obviously a tight end in this league is a massive
it's important. Yeah.
It's a massive thing. And obviously Ladarius Green athletically was much better than anything the Steelers had on the roster. But if the dude's not on the field, that's worthless.
That's a great point.
I mean, I guess,
and that was what I was going to say next was, there he is. And that was what I was going to say next is everybody freaked out about Ladarius Green. Folks, we kind of made it to the AFC Championship game.
Right.
Without Green on the field.
Ladarius Green.
Now, again, I'm not trying to minimize what he did in that Giants and that Bengals game, but folks, we didn't get much of Ladarius Green. I guess what I'm trying to say is, folks, we'll live without him. And if you think that the loss of Ladarius Green tanks this offense, no, it doesn't. Well, we still have plenty of weapons to compensate for this.
The other thing about it, Washington's offense, Jay Gruden even admitted it earlier in the offseason. He said, look, our offense runs through Jordan Reed.
Yeah.
Based on the coverages, how they try to get him in favorable matchups. If they overcommit to Jordan Reed, obviously the outside becomes open. So when we lost Jordan Reed for those three parts of three games this year, it was a big difference for us. But I just feel like Ladarius Green athletically is gifted, but he wasn't on the field enough to run an offense through.
That's exactly right. And if you
I
can't
think
get
they're
on,
going to be just fine.
I agree. So we'll go ahead and wrap this little conversation up. And the last little thing I'll say is, obviously, I think Kevin Colbert and Rooney and Tomlin deserve some blame in this for not doing their research. But Chris, I think Ladarius Green just also wasn't very honest with the Steelers. Don't you? I mean, don't you feel like Ladarius Green was never fully honest with them about the severity of his headaches, these concussion symptoms?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know, when you're in the concussion protocol, obviously there are...
Well, I'm talking about when they signed him back in 2016.
Right, what I'm saying is, I don't know what sort of report is generated.
Sure.
When you're in the concussion protocol.
Right.
I don't know if there's a report that's generated that says, okay, these were his symptoms. Here's what he's dealing with. And here's what he's dealing with. This is what he was dealing with when he entered the protocol, and he's 100% clean going out of the protocol.
Right.
I don't know what he was dealing with, but you would think you certainly could make the argument that maybe he did try to downplay.
I think he did.
Some of that stuff. And look, that's just the nature. That's in human nature. We don't want to,
especially when you get a 4-year, $20 million contract.
Exactly. When you're dealing with that kind of money, the last thing you want to do is say,
"Oh yeah, you're not telling that team about them headaches."
Oh yeah, let me tell you about these headaches I've been having.
Yeah,
nobody wants to do that.
Yeah, I agree. So final little thoughts on it. Again, it's shocking. It's unfortunate. Green was a weapon when he was on the field, but I think we're going to be just fine. To the Steelers front office, I'm willing to give them a pass. I'm willing to, give them a second chance, but they need to learn from this. You can't let a situation like this happen again. But I think we'll be fine. I think everybody should calm down just a little bit.
All right, Patrick, we have to touch on a subject now.
Do we?
And it takes a big man to admit when he's wrong, and I'll be that bigger man.
Thank you. Appreciate that.
On draft, our draft recap, we had a lot of fun talking about the Steelers' 6th round long snapper pick. But it would seem they had plans for the old boy. And it did not include outside linebacker.
No. Not, well, hey, we may convert him to outside linebacker. The offseason is young. Yes, what Chris is referring to is we drafted Colin Holba, long snapper out of Louisville. And, of course, everybody freaked out. Everybody laughed. And on our draft recap show, we were just like, now, wait a minute. We have Cameron Canaday. 78-year-old Greg Warren is still on the roster. Now you got this guy. What in the world? Well, I guess Kevin Colbert is the hero because Greg Warren, 12-year long snapper, was released last Thursday. So what we wanted, I won't word it like that. I don't necessarily want to say this is what we wanted because Chris, think about this for a second. these last couple of years have kind of been an emotional time for me as a Steelers fan. A lot of these old guys are leaving. Guys who I've been growing up with for so many years. Lawrence Timmons, Ike Taylor, Troy Polamalu. A lot of these older guys are leaving, and Greg Warren, he won. He was a 2-time Super Bowl champion with us. So, he's kind of the last remnant of those older Steelers. Yeah. But so I don't want to say this is what we wanted, but if you're going to draft a long snapper, if you're going to draft one, there better be a good reason to do it. And the fact that we did finally release Greg Warren, I guess it softens the blow a little bit. I guess it now is a little more understandable. Pretty interesting. He got cut under just like Ladarius Green, under the designation of a failed physical. So there's that. But yeah, would I still have drafted him? No, I still think he would have been available as an undrafted free agent.
Yeah, but still.
But I guess Kevin Colbert, we can slowly kind of put down the pitchforks and the torches. I guess it makes a little more sense now. Best of luck to Greg Warren. I don't know what he's going to do now. I don't know if he's going to retire or not. But looks like Colin Holba is going to be our long snapper for the next 17 years. He's the new guy. So there you go.
Yeah.
And that really about does it with me. Like I said, I'm not really that guy who overanalyzes OTAs and stuff like that. So Chris, we'll kick it over to you now in Redskin Land. Chris, what's going on? What's going on in Redskin Land these days?
Actually, it's been fairly quiet. The couple little news items. The Redskins still have not released their plans about the front office restructuring.
Well, we already know what the plans are.
Right. We already know what those plans are. They're George Allen. Bruce Allen came out this past week and said that he had interviewed as many as 12 people that he has not previously worked with, that he could expect to hire as many as 3 outsiders to the team. I don't know what that means.
You guys gonna hire 3 GMs? I mean, like...
Well, no, I guess maybe... My guess is this. I think the Redskins will restructure internally, but they may shift some titles and they may choose to bring in a couple of new guys.
Okay.
There was a tiny blurb, and I'm not going to credit it. Not because I just don't want to get in. I don't want a bunch of Twitter ats at me, saying what he's. But there was a little blurb saying that talks between the Redskins and Mike Mayock could be heating up.
The Mike Mayock?
Yes, and folks, please, it's not going to happen. It's not going to happen. It's not going to happen. Okay, let's just. I don't even want to.
Let's play devil's advocate.
No.
What if no? Not
okay.
Even?
Okay, go ahead.
But what if they got Mike Mayock?
I would look at it. There's no way, if you're a Redskin fan, that you can look at it any other way than to say, "Why would you do that?"
But hey, wouldn't that be par for the course for the Redskins this offseason?
It would be the most Redskin thing ever.
Yeah, sure.
I don't understand why any thinking person with any kind of credentials, with any kind of successful history in front officery, is that even a word?
Front officery. It is now.
Would come to the Redskins.
Yeah.
And I just don't know why you would do that. Kudos, by the way, to Scott McLuhan. The dude is just a class act. Did we talk about the hat and the suit going on eBay?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, we talked a little bit about that.
I just thought it was a savage boss move. I thought it was great.
The dude is winning off the field.
Yeah.
Love that guy. But anyway, so we're still waiting on what sort of shifting they're going to do. I really do believe it's going to be an internal move because Bruce Allen is going to be the de facto general manager.
Guy, yeah.
He just is. He's not going to turn loose of this. The other thing that I found interesting, Kirk Cousins in his interview, his press conference yesterday after the OTA session, he sounded to me as positive in terms of the contract situation as I've ever heard him. I am not saying that I'm still on board saying I do not think a deal gets done. But he sounded very upbeat about it. He really did.
I was going to ask you about that tonight. Things seem a little more optimistic with Kirk and the Redskins
and I
lately.
don't know if maybe – I don't know if we had a breakthrough. I don't know what that means. Now, Bruce Allen said, that after he had mentioned the front office situation, he was asked about the contract, and he said, well, we certainly want a long-term deal done, but if we don't get one, we have options. And Bruce Allen is that dude, that he's that politician that the city could be in flames, and he'll be out there saying, folks, we're in great shape. We're in fantastic shape.
We're fine.
We have 6 new fire departments online. This is great. We're going to get water to you. We know this thing is crumbling, and he's out there saying, we have options. What options do you have, Bruce? Well, you're either going to franchise him next year for $34 million, at which point, when Kirk signs that, which he will sign that.
Oh, he'll sign that.
In a heartbeat. The Redskins will have paid that man over $70 million.
Without a long-term deal.
Without a long-term deal over a 3-year period.
That's
So
Kirk's
folks,
winning, man.
So, folks, Bruce can get up there and say that all he wants, man. That's not an option. Now, you can go the transition tag option, which that would mean the Redskins would be on the hook for $28.8 million, which that would be the single biggest one-year contract in NFL history. Kirk, again, would definitely sign that. And you're on the clock because you have a 7-day window where a team can negotiate a contract with Kirk Cousins.
So, in other words, Kirk Cousins wins either way.
Yeah, there's no reason for Kirk. But it's just hilarious to listen to Bruce get up there and act like they have all these options.
Yeah, because they really don't.
But he's that dude. I mean, he is that guy. He doesn't. You gotta hand it to him.
I guess
he doesn't flinch.
Yeah.
But anyway, I felt like Kirk's press conference yesterday, he sounded as upbeat about it because usually he's very neutral, very party line. Ball's in their court. I'm happy, excited about where we're going, that type of stuff. But yesterday he seemed to move the needle just a little bit. I'm trying to think. Right now, everybody's healthy. Josh Doxson so far has looked very good from what I understand in the OTAs. Junior Gallette's actually taking part in some of the drills.
Now, obviously there was that incident with Junior Gallette not too terribly long ago. I mean, is he going to get suspended for that? Is there going to be...
I don't think so. I mean, okay. I just don't think anybody... I don't... There hasn't been any movement there. It just seemed like just kind of a brawl at a ball game.
Okay. Because usually the NFL tends to...
I haven't heard anything.
Okay.
I've heard nothing.
All right.
So...
Okay.
Anyway, so there's there's no news really, like you said. You can't really go in depth on.
Kind of dead.
It was kind of nice to see some of the rookies start working. There's some clips of Jonathan Allen going through some drills. Samaj EP49, man, that guy looks big. If you get a chance, go to Bleacher Report. I think his name, it's Tyler. Is it Tyler Dunn that writes for them? Has done a sort of an in-depth article / interview on Josh Norman. It's funny. I mean, this dude is smack talking like a champ. and there's two sides that I love that because I think the NFL is vanilla. And growing up in the 80s, if you're a Redskin fan, you love to hear the smack talk between the Skins and Dallas.
Yeah.
And there was a lot of hatred there. And it stemmed from what went on in the 70s. So, for the first 5 or 6 years, from like 80 to 86, when the Dallas Cowboys were viable, things were. It was fun to be a Redskin.
Yeah.
It was cool to be in that rivalry. And it just seems like over the years, it's just kind of become vanilla almost.
No, it's NFL rules,
Yeah, and so Josh was just smack-talking Dez Bryant. I'm not going to give a lot of it away because it's worth the read. Smack-talking OBJ, smack-talking Dez Bryant. And now, it's funny, but there's definitely a flip side to it.
Because if it gets burned.
Because if you get burned and... You don't want to create something that you have to try to live up to. You don't want to ever have to create a situation where you've got to live up to your own words.
Yeah, there's a fine line there.
So that's how 15-yard unsportsmanlike conduct penalties show up.
Yeah, exactly.
In very bad times. So it's funny right now in May.
You just hope you
hopefully
live up to it.
Those emotions and everything can stay in check, and it can just be humorous. But then you go out there and play the game.
Right.
But anyways, definitely worth a read. Some pretty funny stuff.
Well, I guess that's a nice little segue into what we can talk about next. Talking about how, the NFL has become the no fun league and all that. You heard about the new rule changes where they have sort of, cut back on the TD celebration strictness a little bit. They're going to be more lenient with it this year, which I'm not even sure what that means.
I'm not either.
I didn't read the details of the new rule.
I'm going to tell you the problem with this. In 2 years, they'll be strict again because
they'll be right back
some
at it,
idiot will do something completely inappropriate.
Antonio Brown.
With a football.
Antonio Brown.
There'll be some kind of ridiculous group celebration that everybody will gasp over. So I'm just saying.
I love Antonio Brown, but he has already said the day that rule came out, he said, I got plans.
That's what I'm saying.
He said, I got plans. And he's going, which reportedly he's going to incorporate offensive linemen into his new celebrations.
Look,
whatever that means.
I look forward to humorous stuff. What I hate is when these players begin to get really off color with stuff.
Oh, sure.
It makes me sick.
Well, yeah, AB, I don't know if you might want to cut back the thrusting a little bit when you score.
And that's what I'm saying. There's a side to this that it just seems like Roger Goodell is trying to pander to the players a little bit on this thing, trying to get on their good side.
Yeah.
Because
just so he can break their hearts 2 years later.
Because he's so hated. But it'll be interesting to see how the players handle this freedom, so-called.
Yeah.
And really, the other thing I found very interesting is one of the driving forces in that rule change were referees.
Yeah.
Referees
that
were
was
tired of being in this no man's land of, okay, I'm going to call this penalty and possibly back a team up 15 yards on a kickoff after a touchdown. They just said they were tired of it.
All because a guy celebrated extra 5 seconds.
So I think it's going to be decided in New York.
Mm-hmm.
Some of the finer points of this thing will be decided.
But and I agree with you. I think 2-3 short years we're going to be back to the no fun league. But
I just think somebody's going to do something stupid enough where they're going to have to say, okay, you can't use a ball as a prop. You can't have it. You know what I mean? They'll have to retrench.
Gosh,
but for now,
what a dumb league.
There's part of me that would have rather seen them just say, look, you can dunk a ball across a crossbar, which by the way, you still cannot do. That is not allowed.
Hear that,
anyway.
Jimmy Graham?
It'll be kind of interesting to see how this thing progresses.
Yeah, it definitely will. I'm looking forward to what Antonio Brown does with this. The next thing was they cut back overtime to 10 minutes instead of 15 minutes. Did you agree or disagree with that?
I totally disagree.
Really?
Totally disagree. All right, here's my problem with it, okay? This is done this is one of these moves that is not done to make football better. It is done to make people seem like, oh, we're taking care of players.
And that's what they said.
That's what they said. Now, I want to ask you something, Patrick. Okay. You're the Tennessee Titans. You're playing Sunday. And you've got a color rush game coming up Thursday.
Oof.
All right?
Because you picked a better team with a better color rush.
So, you're playing this game and you go into overtime.
Okay.
All right? And you play an overtime period and end up winning the ball game or losing the ball game, but you have to play 13 minutes of overtime to get that done. Okay. Now let's fast forward to this year. You're the Tennessee Titans. You've got your color rush game coming up on Thursday.
Yeah.
You play a 9-minute and 59-second overtime period.
Yeah.
According to the NFL's logic, that 4 minutes is all the difference in the world.
Between a player getting injured or not.
Or not.
Yeah.
It makes no sense to me.
No, it doesn't.
The solution stares us in the face. Get rid of Thursday night football. The players don't like it. Coaches don't like it. And not many fans like it unless your team is playing.
It's true. It's true.
They're terrible matchups.
Yeah.
On Thursday night, there are about 13 different things I'd rather do than turn on the New York Jets versus the Miami Dolphins.
You don't watch the Jaguars Thursday night color rush?
Against the Browns.
Come on. Yeah. No,
I don't. And
it's a fantastic point. It's a brilliant point.
It's just, to me, this is where this is going is the same kind of mess. This is what's ruined NASCAR over the years. Let's change the rules for no other reason than just it'll make somebody say we're doing a good job.
Yeah.
It does not make our sport better. Folks, I want to take you back to 19. Do you realize that the NFL was launched into the modern era by a sudden death overtime game? Do you realize in 1958 when the New York Giants and the Baltimore Colts played in overtime, that and it was won in sudden death, that game by itself single-handedly thrust the NFL out of a regional, we're just, okay, you got the southern teams and, strictly city-by-city league to a national football league. All of a sudden, they were on the national stage.
So the argument you're making is that overtime is awesome.
Yeah, I've never had a problem with it. And listen,
I don't hate overtime.
I want to tell you this. I never had a problem with it being decided by a coin toss.
No,
I never had a problem with sudden death. That's just the way it had always been done. But you got enough people together who sat there and said, well, it's not fair. It's not fair. I ought to have a possession. By golly, I want a possession.
Yeah.
So somebody says, you know what? We're tired of these reporters saying this, so let's give everybody a possession. Let's make everybody happy.
And that's the crushing part of all this is you realize that so much of this is PR and politics.
Exactly.
It's not about the game.
Listen, come at me with something that makes this game better, and I'll be on board.
Yeah.
But don't come at me with something that just is pandering.
No. And I just think the point you made is brilliant, that the real issue here is in Thursday Night Football. That's the solution. Just end it.
Just end it. I mean, it's not. Now, it will never happen because it makes money.
Now, I'll tell you, and I'll float this little idea out to you. I would, if the NFL made a deal where they said no more Thursday Night Football, we'll do Saturday Night Football. I wouldn't necessarily be opposed to something like that. But at the end of the day, Sunday and Monday, I'm fine with that.
Well, there's no way. Saturday Night Football does not make sense because you're going head to head with
college football.
That's
I totally didn't think about that.
My problem is this. Well, the NFL has a real issue here because they've just about marginalized themselves out of Monday night. ESPN, folks, is losing money hand over fist.
Oh yeah, and we did an episode about that recently.
I will be shocked if they are in play when the next TV contract comes up for Monday Night Football.
Yeah, but do you realize though that ESPN they're stuck in this contract? Like they can't get out.
Oh, they can't get out till 2021.
But what I'm saying is, no matter how bad the ratings get and how much money, they're in either way.
No. But what I'm saying is when the contract ends, which I think is like 2021,
2021
or 2022, somewhere around there, they can get out of it.
Which, if they're smart, they will. If the ratings continue to dip like this, yeah.
But I think part of that is the NFL said when they went all in on Sunday Night Football, which it would have been back, 2004, 2005? Is that when Madden came over?
Yes.
I can clearly remember Roger Goodell saying, well, we have considered over the last few years that Sunday Night Football is the premier primetime package for the NFL.
Which it still kind of is.
So, yes, that's become the primetime game that Monday night used to be.
Yes.
So you have marginalized Monday Night Football, which used to be a staple. But not only have you done that, then you've added this Thursday night package that nobody wanted.
And nobody's watching, yeah.
I mean, the ratings for those games aren't great.
So if you're in the NFL, you're just losing money.
You think about this. The NFL Network doesn't even want to carry. It doesn't even carry its own games anymore. They've shunned it off to CBS.
To CBS, yeah. And that was nothing more than a money move because they weren't getting. Because some people don't get you don't get NFL Network unless you've got an extra package on your cable. That's not free over the air cable. So
it is now. I mean, it didn't used to be.
Is it included in the normal?
It's included.
Okay, I didn't know
now.
That
and that was one of the big fights through the years with the NFL Network and Comcast and Time Warner. They wanted to be included on a regular tier.
Okay, all right.
And not just. And I think there were some compromises there. And finally, now the compromise was we'll air the NFL Network, but we will not air. You're going to pay the premium for the Red Zone.
The Red Zone, yeah, that's right.
So they batched Red Zone with a couple other sports channels, and way you went. But anyway, one rule that I did like was two rules that made sense to me that they did pass. The first one being you can bring two guys off of the IR now instead of just one.
Oh, I was very happy about that.
That makes sense. It really relieves some of the stress about having to release guys when that guy comes on.
Right.
If you've got another guy on IR, a lot of teams were saying, well, who do we bring back? We're going to have to shelve this guy, even though. So I really like that rule. I think it just makes sense.
I totally forgot about that one. Yeah, that was a rule I really approved. Yeah.
And then there'll just be one cut down now.
Yes.
90 to 53, which I've always thought that needed to happen.
Yep.
Never understood this all-powerful 15 go cut down to 75.
Yeah.
Before the last preseason game, and a lot of coaches hated that because you really don't want to play. You don't want to really play your 53 very much in that last playoff, that last preseason game. So having that extra 15 players coming into that final game relieves some of the stress.
That's exactly
about
right.
who you're going to field, because it's not just about the 53, but it's about guys. Okay, there's some bubble guys that I already know they may make the team,
but let's give them a little extra time.
Let's give them let's give them another shot. So I like that move.
That was a good rule.
It's one less thing to talk about because it's always kind of fun to bat around who's going to get cut, but I thought that those two.
It was a smart move. Yeah. There you go, NFL. We gave you a little bit. We threw you a little bit of a bone tonight. Chris, that about do it for you tonight, buddy?
I'm done.
I think I'm done too. I think that's all I got. All right, ladies and gentlemen, thank you for watching. Thank you for listening tonight. Remember, you can follow us on Twitter. We are at Steelskin Show on Twitter. Like us on Facebook, facebook.com/Steelskin Show. You can follow me on Twitter. I am at P_Garrison. You can follow him. He is at CGLSKSC. We do have a YouTube channel. Make sure you subscribe. Make sure you comment below. Join the conversation. And iTunes. The Steelskin Show is on iTunes. Make sure you go over there and rate, subscribe, and write a review. You know what to do, people. Go support you boys. All right, guys, that's all we've got for you tonight. Until next time, good night.